Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Incessantly Seeking. Let's talk about love. And we're here today with Mala Muñoz, who has her own podcast. Mala, welcome. Please tell us about your podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Mala Muñoz, and I co-host a podcast called Locatora Radio, a radiophonic novela with my good friend Diosa. We are on the iHeart Radio Network on their My Cultura podcast network. And then I also host a solo show called Marihuanera, a podcast for potheads.
So, as you might guess, we're talking today about dating under the influence. So I thought about that because pre-pandemic, I was dating a guy and we thought we had so much in common. But what turns out, we were just smoking a lot of weed together and going on these really long conversations about art and life and feeling really connected and really inspired. And then the pandemic happened. And I realized, oh my God, I have nothing in common with you, except the fact that we felt like in a different level we connected when we smoked a joint. So I would love to hear a little bit about that. You're a big advocate for marijuana. So did you feel like there is any difference between dating sober and dating under the influence?
Oh yeah, there definitely is. And like I think the past few years have been all about me exploring those differences because for a while I was very committed to only dating potheads. Like if you cannot smoke with me, like we don't have that in common and it's a huge part of like my life. And so I have actually started to explore dating non-potheads, sober guys, sober people. And it really is a different vibe and a different dating experience, but in a good way. Like I'm enjoying it. So yeah.
When you date people that are outside the pothead community, how does that
Yeah.
go? What is that like?
Well, at first it was like, okay, well, if we're not smoking, then what are we doing? But uh it also became like me being a little less like this is so funny, but like being less judgmental about people who don't smoke like at all, not even like socially or like once in a while, right? Because so many people that I know like at this point in life like do smoke and it's just such like a regular everyday thing. So it's like okay, like I don't want to feel judged. I also shouldn't be judging others. And like it's chill, it's cool, everything is normal. And it's also like, not everybody's wind down ritual is the same. And like not everybody like enjoys the experience like I do. And so it's kind of just like, well, what do other people enjoy? Well, tea is great. I love tea, tea is nice. A glass of wine is okay, that's nice. Like these other things are lovely and it doesn't like have to be. I guess I just really associated like weed with intimacy for like a long time. Like that's more of it of what it is for me is like this is like an intimate thing that two people can share or like a friendship thing that two people can share. Yeah.
I think it does bring your guard down. At least from my past experience, I don't think that was the best example of turns out it kind of gave us rose-colored glasses on what we were compatible with. But I feel like it did. I agree with you. It has a sense of intimacy of like sharing at a deeper level that maybe if you were completely sober, you'd be more protected of yourself. Not that
Hmm.
I am saying that people should engage in any kind of like
Yeah.
activity to open up and feel more vulnerable, but it's common that people do engage in some kind of inhibiting minimizer activity or substance to help them open up. So I totally understand that. And I talk to my friends a lot too, because, if you're dating, if you're out in the dating field and you're thinking about compatibility. So if somebody's completely sober, not just marijuana, but maybe, alcohol, What happens when you do want to go out and have that crazy drunken night with your friends, or what happens
Right.
when you do want to celebrate in the way that you have in the past. Like you said, you can celebrate with tea, you can celebrate with a lot of different things. I mean, there's a lot of non-alcoholic beverages now that mimic the taste and the feel of a cocktail. So there
Mhm.
are ways to get around that. But I agree with you. There's this connection thing that happens when your inhibitions are lowered, and you're just having fun.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the opposite of that. So you're dabbling into the sober-ish dating
Mhm.
like pool, but what is it like when you date people in in the let's try different things kind of vibe?
Yeah, so, like, I did date someone who was completely sober, no alcohol, no weed, no hookah, like, and, just being in LA and, like, coming out of my 20s, like, that is so much of socializing and dating and just existing is, like, consuming whatever it is. Especially, like, there's always events, there's always open bar, there's always party, like, someone smoking weed, like, there are weed events, and, like, I go to a lot of weed events, so, like, weed is even, the way that alcohol is a professional thing, like, people get fucked up professionally, like, all the time. People smoke weed professionally, especially out here, so it's one of those things where all of a sudden we're going out for fun, we're going on a date, we're going to a party, but we're not drinking and we're not smoking when we're drinking and smoking, even when we're working. And it's just such a part of, so it was kind of like a flip for me, but I enjoyed it because it's like, I know this person means what they say to me. I know
Hmm.
this person is not just talking crazy because they're crossfaded. I know this person like is being consistent with me because they're sober. And also like if we're both not if only one of us is drinking, well, I'm drinking a lot less, I'm having one drink as opposed to the two of us working our way up to three drinks. And I'm not like bringing a blunt because I know that the person I'm with is not smoking. So this person is sober. I'm way closer to sober, which is great because then we can like get to know each other like on this different level. And when I'm out and like doing so much like out here in the city, it's kind of nice to like have a rest from that because it's like, well, this is a date, not a party. So like it's different, and treating it differently has been really lovely because I think so often dating can center around, dinner and drinks,
Hmm.
whatever it is. And it can be really easy to slip into that when it maybe for me anyways takes a little bit more of conscious effort to say like let's just sit down like and be completely level-headed and just talk to each other, and it's still fun.
And I think that's an important point too, because in the way that substances lower our inhibitions, how much of that is trustworthy? I think that's a great point because people show up in a different way when they are sober. So
Mhm,
I think that consistency is really important. Like I dated a guy in the beginning of the year who drank a lot. And
mhm,
it's like you're saying, the beginning of dating, it's very common for you to not pick up on that because it's so revolving around going out to dinner and going to brunch and going to parties and seeing your friends. And, it
mhm,
ends up being surrounded with, weed and alcohol and those things. So it took a few months for me to realize that he had a drinking problem.
mm,
It wasn't until one morning when he's chugging half the bottle of wine that we left from the night before that I realized this is not normal.
right.
And then I was like, well, but we are about to go to brunch and have some margaritas. So,
Literally.
you start to get confused. But I thought what you said was also great because I did drink way more than I normally do by being in the companionship of this person, because it kind of takes you on that other level. Versus now, when I go out with whoever, I'm just myself. I have a drink, maybe two. Um, maybe if it's a rager party and we're celebrating something, sure, I'll drink more than that. But normally I won't
Yeah.
partake more than that. I'm a small person. I don't really like to be out of control. I think I've done that in my 20s, and right now it's just a different vibe for me. But I'm curious, how long did you date that person for?
For a few months, for a few months. That's the other thing is like, I still work in entertainment and like whether it's comedy shows, if they're at a club or a venue, there's a 2 drink minimum, like just to be there. And a lot of times, like as a comic, you go and you perform on shows and all the comics get 2 drink tickets, you know what I mean? And the shows are at bars and at breweries, and like comics love weed. And so even just being like part of my life, like, this sober person is like constantly being asked to go out to shows or out late or to bars or to places where like everybody's imbibing. And so it's also like a lifestyle thing where I also recognize that for me, work is like sometimes going to a premiere and it's going to be like an all night thing. You know what I mean? And so, is that something that this sober person even really wants for themselves or to be around? You know what I mean? And so, that was interesting too, because I sort of felt like I was kind of asking a lot of this person, or like, for this person to show up for me or like to be supportive kind of took them out of their routine or their life or their element, because other people have, daytime hours and
Right.
you know so it was interesting. But I'm still dating, I'm still out and about, I'm still having fun, I'm having a good time. But it was a really good experience for me, and it was like a learning moment. I learned a lot from that relationship.
Yeah, and I think it's down to compatibility. We have to think about how our lives work out together. A person who maybe doesn't like the nightlife might not be the right person to date somebody in entertainment, because there's a lot of that involved.
Hmm.
But as you were talking, I was thinking it's kind of like dating a vegan. I have a hard rule that I don't date vegans.
That's
And
tough. That's
right,
tough.
especially in LA.
Mhm.
And it's just because I'm like,
uh,
I'm Brazilian. Like, if I take a vegan in my, home, they're gonna be like, what does this mean? I'm so confused. Also, like, I'm not a huge meat eater, but I enjoy a cheeseburger occasionally.
oh
I
yeah.
don't ever want to be concerned of like, oh, I can't go to a sushi restaurant because this person doesn't eat sushi, or, you know,